think the best thing I ever did was say this dream out loud to the people who care about me the most. And when you're stuck, you raise your hand.
Having someone that can be there with you to navigate that without any sort of judgment.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Whitney. This is the Use Your Fear podcast.
We're here to highlight stories and people who are going through things in their life or life experiences, and they want to share their story, and so others out there don't feel like they're alone. Because now that we're kind of started,
we can absolutely go into our High-Low Buffalo.
I think that's a good idea. That's a good idea, Whitney.
What? Yes,
High-Low Buffalo. So a high is, something that is fantastic that has happened. Low is obviously the low, and the buffalo is the something that was unexpected. And so Whitney and I are going to kick it off with ours. Whitney, you're going to start.
That's fine. So I would say my high was getting to come out to Houston. I brought my son with me. We had a fantastic day of a photo shoot. Might have been a little sweaty, but we got some wonderful stuff from it. I'm really excited to see it. My low would be that we drove all the way to Houston for my son to not get into space camp and for the guy to be a jerk about it. And then my unexpected would be getting to go to the zoo for free because my good friend works there, and getting to go and see the apes and the gorillas and all the things. So it was the giraffes were hiding. It was hot. It was so hot at the zoo. I don't know why we went, but it was fun to go and see. I would go on a colder day, not a hot day again. I felt like I had jumped in a pool drenched in water.
One out of 5. Out of 5 stars for sure. My high was going to Goodwill with you.
Yes.
That was so fun.
It's been a while since you've done a Goodwill shopping, and I really hope that re-inspired you to go shop at Goodwill.
It did. I even told Matt when I got home, I was like, I love Goodwill. I forgot. He goes, Goodwill's awesome. I was like, can we go shopping there? He's like, yes. My low was the same as yours. I think we were all like the most disappointed with your son not being able to get into space camp. My buffalo, surprising. What's surprising? I think in my growth journey, I am realizing now that I will plan well, and I will leave open space for planning and for doing to prep for the other stuff. But then when something else comes, I try to find the yes to everything, and I will sacrifice my time that I think is open.
You mean
it's not open
when you stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yes. Because I don't protect my peace. My peace is the first thing that I sacrifice. And I'm realizing now that's just as important as doing an event or, having an appointment or dinner, something like that. So that's my buffalo that I'm just now taking into my soul.
So welcome back to the Use Your Fear podcast. And today is going to be a wonderful episode. We have a very special guest on today, and we are going to be talking about fear and identity of transitioning in Texas. So welcome, Kris, to our show.
Yay!
We're very happy to have you here. Yay!
Very happy.
If you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little, 5-minute elevator speech of who you are. We want to know.
I feel like that's like the hardest question ever. It is. Out of absolutely anything. You can ask
me. Let me start with the hardest question.
Hard hitting, right off the bat. Let's go.
I am a trans person based out of Austin. I use they them pronouns, which I know for some people that might be like, ugh. you know, but I'm hoping to make that a more comfortable conversation for people and a more, just, I guess, help people open their mind a little bit. 'Cause I know that the perception is like, oh my God, another one of these, you know.
Mhm.
I am a dog owner. I have a girlfriend who's amazing. Um, yeah,
You're an artist.
I'm an
Yep.
artist.
You're a Beanie Baby owner.
Yes, a proud owner of 200 vintage Beanie Babies.
Kris and I used to work together at a restaurant, and we just connected immediately. And while we would talk about work, we also spoke about life, and we just connected immediately. And we've always just kind of kept in touch and cheered each other on at different times of the year and throughout the season. So no, I'm so excited for you to be on. I'm a huge fan of yours. I always have been since I met you. And thank you so much for trusting us today to tell your story. It really means a lot to us.
And in the short time I've gotten to know you, what is it, hour? I'm a big fan of yours too. So, Kris, what brings you joy right now?
So, displaying my Beanie Babies, I guess, is a little recession indicator, from what my girlfriend says, but that brings me a lot of joy. And my dogs, times have been pretty rough, so like having something to, like, my dog Harlow, she loves to spoon me. Like, she likes to like put her full body weight on me, and she's 110 pounds. And so I wake up to that in the mornings, and that brings me joy.
Why is it that the biggest dogs think that they're lap dogs?
Yes.
Mine, yeah.
My
And then the little ones have like I'm a big dog syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah.
My 40-pound dog, she likes to sleep near me, but she does not like to cuddle, really. Like, she comes to you if she wants to cuddle.
Thing about you that people might not guess. Something, first thing, I didn't know you were an artist. And, Michelle told me, is there anything else that just, seeing you, somebody might not be able to guess, like a little secret, something about you? Like, oh, I play solitaire every morning.
I was born a girl. Just kidding.
What?
No, it's funny. I asked my girlfriend, I was like, what would people not know about me?
Yeah.
And she was like, you love horses, you have a bunch of Beanie Baby. Like, we're like naming things, and I was like, I think like the best thing I can say is that I'm a preacher's kid.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
I definitely wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about your family previously and how that has impacted your life as you've learned more about yourself. And there's a lot of pressure there. I think I think everybody has felt that in their childhood. There's purity culture, there was summer
Don't
camp.
talk about it, keep it in. Like, we don't talk about things. This is going to look bad on our family.
Right.
There was a lot of that dynamic, and I think it's a generational thing too. Like, I think it's been worse, and it's slowly getting better, but at the same time, it's like, how do you break that if you don't talk about it?
Right.
But we definitely grew up in that world of don't talk about it. No one needs to know what's going on behind closed doors.
And what's a good Christian look like, and the shame that comes with that when you don't act exactly like that, and God's wrath. And I feel like I got a lot of that. Kris, I'm sure you can relate.
Oh,
yeah.
My mom blames my anthropology course in college for me not being a devout Christian.
Yeah, I
I was like, is that what we're blaming it on? Okay.
Yeah. No,
Like,
no,
I would say
so-
I'm agnostic. I'm not atheist, but I'm not like into, you know, mainstream religion. But I do believe that there's like, you know, if I could say that there's a religion, I would say I'm more Buddhist because I believe in karma and energy and things are all connected. But my mom is always like, it's that damn anthropology class. Like, we gotta blame something.
Damn phone. No,
So
I,
what is
Shouldn't have taken it.
what does that look like for you, Kris? Now, from your background, and then how your life has unfolded, and what are your what are your beliefs now? And go ahead. I'm gonna shut up.
know what I don't really know what to say my beliefs are. Like it's funny because I had a so like since the last time that like we really were whenever we worked together, there was like I came out, I got disowned, and then my parents kind of started to come around, like we were having more of a regular relationship. Like I don't have any contact with my siblings, but with my parents, they were trying. And I'm like, they're like, I felt like I need to have a lot of grace with them because I'm like, they've never, I think that like for a lot of people, I'm probably the only trans person that they know of that they've met. A lot of people are still. So I was trying to keep like a good relationship with my parents because I'm like, maybe that will open their mind, that they see that I'm not this like problem child. I'm not crazy. But like then whenever I came out as trans, I just never heard back. So I guess that ship has sailed again. And so the boundary that I had set with my family previously was like, I will not talk about spirituality with you. I will not talk about religion with you. I'm not interested. If you want to get to know me as a person, great. Because I feel like me being queer or trans is the least interesting thing about me.
Yeah.
So if you want to actually ask me questions or talk about stuff, I'm happy to do that. But I'm not interested in talking about religion just because it still is pretty triggering. Just because I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household, and so like we couldn't dance, like we couldn't do anything. We couldn't.
You can dance. That's right. I forgot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God, like Footloose, like
Footloose.
no one dances.
yeah, so like we couldn't dance.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't wear anything above my knee. I couldn't wear anything showing cleavage or shoulders. Which I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, okay, so y'all practically did like make me into a lesbian. Like, who's wearing? What girl is wearing swim trunks to the pool with an oversized T-shirt? But
This is your fault. You did it to
You
me.
did this to me.
how does it? No, like it was so strict, and my dad would have us like read the book. We had to read the book of Revelation every single year. We had to study. It was like we had to learn all about the fire and brimstone. And so it's taken me years to work through that because for a long time I was like, I could not talk about it without getting like, which I didn't realize, like my therapist helped me realize that is like a symptom of CPTSD.
Mhm.
Like it's like the religious trauma. Like I would start like chest would start getting really tight. I like can't breathe. I start thinking about the afterlife and like it was just like this horrible shame spiral for years and years and years. So I don't really know what I believe right now. I think
You don't need to.
yeah,
Uh-uh.
I think like don't do things that hurt yourself, don't do things that hurt others, and don't do things that hurt the world around you. So that pretty much covers the bases. You're not killing people, you're not stealing, you're not lying. Like just
Be a good person.
Yeah.
period. So like religious, spiritually, that's what I believe in, I guess.
Amen. Same here.
God or Allah or Mother Nature, whoever's the correct deity, You know,
Mhm.
like the worst thing that I'm doing is taking testosterone and having sex with a woman. I feel like
Neither of those are bad things.
horrible.
Say the worst thing.
Like, if that's the worst thing that you can say about me, I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I don't
100%.
think that those are bad things. Those
No.
are, I mean, how many people take testosterone and have sex with women? A lot.
It's called living life. That's what that's called. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's women who take
Yeah.
estrogen for, their hormone therapy whenever they get older. Like, it's
Perimenopause sucks.
hello, party of two.
We're on it.
Like, it's, I don't know why people get so wrapped up in the way people
Because
are
it's
living their life
different.
and taking care of themselves the way they need to be taken care of. And I can just
I
go
feel like
on
people
and
don't
on.
like having like their thoughts. This is how it's always been. And I don't think people don't like change in general, but I
True.
also feel like people don't like their beliefs or the things that they've known in the past to be challenged.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's triggering, I guess, to people that are like, ooh, why are you're you're a woman. You were born a woman. You'll always be a woman. Like, no, why does Chris's life affect your life? Like, let Kris be who they want to be. It doesn't affect you. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
And that's always been a big thing for me is I just don't like how people will aggressively fight against what you're going through when it has nothing to do with them.
Well, and
Get
then
out of
you
here.
grew up in such a unique way. You're almost sheltered in a way because you don't know another way to live. That's just how your parents are living and the community that you're in at the time and your environment. I grew up in a small town, and there were like 62 people in my graduating class, and there's just, it's a tiny town, and you only have that perspective. You don't know what else is outside of that world. You don't know any better. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about like I never grew up around gay people. I never grew up around trans people. I didn't know that was a possibility.
Yeah.
And I think about this one time that we went to a city that was like 45 minutes away. It was the closest mall that there was. And we went to the mall and we were just shopping. And I felt like I was like in middle school maybe. And there was this woman who was, visibly a trans woman. She's wearing a skirt, wearing a tube top, which, like, she looked great, had, like, pretty hair, was wearing heels, but just, like, had, like, the 5 o'clock shadow. And
Mhm.
I remember, like, she was just minding her business. She was just looking through looking through some clothes, shopping. And I remember it being this huge deal that, like, that's disgusting, repulsive. Like my family would like talk about like people being like predators and stuff like that, which mind like they shielded the actual predators in the family who were not trans people or queer people, or they were religious white men
Mhm.
who were predators.
Mhm.
But these people are the issue. And I just remember being like, what is she doing to y'all? Like, even if it's a guy wearing a girl's clothes, who cares? She's minding her business.
Yes.
Mhm.
If anything, that's the safest person to be around because you can just be however you want to be versus other people who hold
Honestly,
a
like
lot in.
thinking about that too is like, this person's being considered a predator, but this person is the actual predator being hidden behind this. As a parent, I'm like, I'd rather my son be with the trans person than the hidden predator. Like, I feel safer because that person is being true to who they are. So it's just our world is backwards sometimes.
Well,
All the time.
when you're
All the time.
in a community, you like, I would I can't speak for everybody. Like, obviously, I'm not like the representative of the
You're not?
Didn't you get your like certificate?
I literally have my badge on me. But no, like, I feel like whenever you grow up in that way, or like whenever you have to fight so hard to be yourself, you're fiercely protective of the people around you.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, even if I wasn't a trans person, I would feel safer with my kids being with a trans person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy.
Mhm.
Like this is before my grandma even found out that I was trans. I don't even know what she thinks because we don't speak. But when I came out as gay years ago, it was like everybody in my family knew except for my grandparents. I came out to my parents, and they told everybody about my grandparents, and I came out on social media, but I didn't have them on social media. And my older sister was like very clear that she wanted nothing to do with me. She did not want me around her kids, nothing. And like I used to live with them and be super close with the kids. Like I loved my nieces. And when like my grandma, my sister, I guess, had a baby, and somebody texted me to let me know, hey, your sister had a baby. I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, she had a son. That's super cool. But my grandma, I guess, had texted my sister and asked her if she had some pic. She had asked me if I'd seen the baby, and I said no. So she said, oh, I'll get you some pictures, not knowing about like that conflict between us. And so she texted my sister and asked for some more pictures to send to me. And my sister said no. And my grandma was like, what? Like shocked. And my older sister had said, oh, she no longer walks with the Lord. And so my grandma calls me like freaking out, like, what is she talking about? And I told her, like, I'm a lesbian. And she said, I don't blame your sister for not wanting anything to do with you. And I was like, cool. Because she said, if you're willing to degrade your body and sleep with women, then what would you be willing to do to children? And I was like, I think that to this day is the most offensive thing that anybody's ever said to me. Like, it's just like this perception of people that's like, we're here to get your kids. And
Yeah.
we literally just want to, like,
Be yourself.
just
Be true to yourself.
Spread joy.
Yes.
Like,
Wow.
I think
that's a hurtful comment. And I'm sorry that you were told that by family. Like, it makes me want to cry. Let me get my tissue. But I can't even imagine the pain that you've been through with your family through that. So I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about your journey getting to that point. Like, you grew up in a fundamentally Christian, very strict rules, things like that. Like, when did you kind of know that you were different? Like, that this wasn't who you wanted to be?
Yeah, I didn't know how to articulate it
Mhm.
for so many years. Because, like I said, I'd never been around. Like, I'd never seen, like, we weren't allowed to watch anything that had gay people in it. Like,
Right.
that movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell, there was a lesbian couple in it. The second my dad realized that it was a lesbian couple, he threw the movie away. And I was so young, I didn't even register that was like a lesbian couple. But like when I was really young, I had this life-size Barbie, and I never liked to play with Barbies. Like I wanted to play with my brother's Legos. And so my family's just, oh, tomboy. But like I used to slow dance with my life-size Barbie in the living room. And just like, I just never pictured myself with a man or a boy. Like I never grew up imagining my wedding. I never grew up thinking about those things. I had no interest whatsoever in boys. And then when it came to like my gender identity, I always just wanted to run around with jeans and no shirt on. And I just never wanted to have a shirt on, ever. I wanted to, and like when I was really little, my parents would let me because I was like 4, you know, so we'd jump on the trampoline and I would have no shirt on. And that's just, I've always loved it. And then as I got older, you know, you start to develop a little bit, and I still wanted to be with no shirt. And my parents were like, no, that's not acceptable. You need to wear a training bra. And I was like, why would I wear a bra? You know, and then God ended up giving the biggest titties to the most non-binary warrior. Like, then I had to like started to develop. And so through puberty, I couldn't understand why I was so miserable. You know, like I avoided looking at myself in the mirror. I wore oversized clothes. Like I was like self-conscious about stuff that I never thought of before.
Yeah.
And I just like, whenever I would play pretend with my friends, I always had to be the boy or the husband or the dad or, you know, like I always just naturally took those roles. And I never thought like, you know, I was, you know, 3, 4, and 5 years old. Like I never thought about that being a bad thing. It just was what it was.
Yeah.
You know, I never knew that I was not, like, I didn't really realize that I was that different until I started to develop boobs. And then,
Well, it's like you were shamed for developing. It's like all of a sudden things moved a little bit more than before, and it was like, whoa, no. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, everything's been fine. I'm living by these rules, and I'm loving life. And you know, you almost like lose your innocence just from being shamed. Would you agree with that?
oh yeah, I never thought about that stuff. And also one thing that stuck out to me too, that I didn't even know that it happened until my mom said something. When I was 4 years old, so like I grew up going to church 3 times a week. So we went twice on Sundays, then we went on Wednesday nights. And so like at 4 years old, like I would kick and scream when it came time to go to church because I didn't want to wear a dress. And so one day when I was 4, I had snuck some scissors under my dress. And like my mom said that she had fought me all morning. And like I would always have to wear the little Mary Janes and the lacy socks.
Yep.
Yes.
The or the bloomers, I guess. Like the whole shebang. And I had snuck scissors under my dress. And while I was in my car seat, I just quietly cut it off. I cut it to shreds. And nobody said anything until we got to church, and my mom flipped out. And she said that she I don't remember if she said she stapled it together or she taped it together. She did something and made me wear that dress. And she said she made me wear it every Sunday until I grew out of it. And the little old ladies at the church made a point to say, oh, we love pretty dress. And I just remember I was like fuming. Like I remember being angry that my mom a few years ago told me that story, that I cut up my dress. I'm like, at 4 years old, I knew I was so, and like it's not like I was groomed to think that. Like I just knew I was like, this isn't right. Like I'm not supposed to wear this.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't have the knowledge I do now, or like the ability to articulate that. And that's like, I love that kids nowadays feel like they can articulate those things, because kids do know.
Yeah.
You know, we feel it in our bones when something's not right.
Yeah.
I can't believe the having to continue to wear that dress week after week. Like,
I think it was
that, yeah, like as a parent myself, like you're talking about cutting up your dress, I'm laughing at it because I'm like, that's great, that's hilarious. Like that's something that I would, you know, I wouldn't
Whitney would
make my
totally
kid
do that.
wear tomboy. My mom had all these smock dresses for me, and I came home from kindergarten and got on my big wheel and ripped up the dress. So she knew she couldn't keep me in dresses and stuff. She's like, "You always looked like an orphan," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I was running around, I'm like raggedy old whatever." But just in, like, when you said that, like the having to be traumatized week after week after week for that innocent act of cutting up your dress, and then having the older ladies in the church make a point to say something about it, like,
Yeah.
how's that a Christian thing? How's that a godly thing? That, to me, just that act right there is aggressive. It's horrible.
Yeah. And something that you said about how you couldn't articulate it, I think as we get older, the language that we learn to articulate ourselves, and that's what I was feeling, how that's actually what got me into podcasts, where like I was listening to people who were actually talking about their experiences in life, and it's like, that always bothered me, but I could never understand why, and that's exactly why. And and learning in therapy, like how to articulate yourself, because that wasn't important. It was, what does everybody else around me want me to show up as? And how can I, what's the path of least resistance? How can I make everybody smile and be happy? And okay, I'll put on a show. Like, did you feel like that as a kid?
For sure.
Yeah.
I like, because my dad was a preacher, there was so much pressure on us to always behave, always be perfect. And like, I feel like I was always like the bad kid. I was the one that was always getting in trouble. And I can recognize now that I didn't really grow up having people around me that were able to emotionally regulate themselves. And so I learned those, like, I didn't know how to say, I feel upset because of this. Instead, I would not do my homework at school, or I would not clean my room, or it was like other things that just on the outside, it probably looked like I was a horrible kid, disobedient, but I really wasn't. I didn't know how to say what I was feeling or acknowledge what I was feeling. And so I would always get told when I would misbehave, like, you're representing our family, and you're representing this church. And if you're misbehaving, people are gonna, like, I remember my dad saying that he was like, if you misbehave and people see that, they're gonna think that, like, if I can't even control my kid, why would I be able to lead a congregation? And they're never gonna come to church. So if they never come to church, they're never gonna be saved. And if they're never getting saved, they're gonna go to hell. So I grew up with this, like, I felt like everybody's souls were dependent on how I behaved. If I got sent to the principal's office, maybe that principal was thinking about going to church with us sometime because we seemed like such nice people. And then they see how I act at school, so they're never going to get saved eventually.
That is a wild responsibility to put on a child.
Yeah, you are in charge of saving everybody else's soul. So you better act right.
Well, it's like in the church you raised, or at least the church that I was a part of was like, part of the Bible talks about not putting a stumbling block before your brother. So like, don't dress this way because men might lust after you.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, teach them not to be perverts.
Yeah.
Okay, like,
yeah.
Actually, it's crazy because in college, the church that I was a part of, there was this guy that had a foot fetish, and we were in Florida. So a lot of people were foot fetishes.
It's always Florida.
Yeah.
He asked this girl not to wear open-toed shoes because he had a foot fetish. And so the congregation talked to her and told her, I'm like, Did anybody try to tell
I
them
just,
book? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I just read this article about a woman who like took advantage of men. And in the comment section, they were all like, well, maybe he shouldn't have worn that watch. Like, did he think about what that watch would have done to her? And just, it was all this, oh, it was brilliant. But I was like, it's such a common thing. Like, because like women are, we're the ones that don't do that because you're going to make them go astray. Don't be a pervert.
Well, if you look at like growing up, I went to a small school, right? And if you look at what are
Mhm.
the requirements of the boys versus the girls, no spaghetti straps, make sure your shorts are a certain length, like, wear all this girly stuff, but it has to fit within these requirements. So, look girly, but not too girly where you're going to tempt the men, but be just
Mhm.
enough. And the emotional roller coaster of shame and guilt, because that I can only imagine that we've touched on in previous conversations, Kris, is that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. No matter which side of the road you choose, I call it pretzeling, turning myself into a pretzel. Have you ever thought about what that represents to you? And yeah.
well, I feel like I can definitely, like when I was a Christian, or like when I guess I should say when I was like a fundamentalist Christian,
There it is.
I always felt the need to, like, I never felt like I was good enough then, even when I was doing everything right and following the Bible, did my daily Bible reading. So it's like, I feel like you grow up with this like internalized, like you're always in the wrong, you're always messing up. Nothing you ever do is going to be enough to be worthy of God, So in that way, it kind of made it easier for me to transition and stuff. Like, I mean, I wasn't worthy then either. So
Yeah.
I might as well just be myself. But like,
Yeah.
I presented like whenever you and I met, I presented very feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt this pressure to like, okay, well, if I'm going to be gay, I might as well be like, I'm not going to be like the other gay. I'm not, even though I wanted to, it's so stupid. I used to wear I used to date this mask lesbian. And when she was at work, I would put on her clothes. I'd put on her Oxford shoes. Like, I loved it. The button down. I would be like, oh, like, I look good. Like, and I always wanted to wear that, but I was just like, but I can't be that lesbian. Like, I need to be still good. And, whenever I would, like, it's like, I was always like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this, then I have to I can't be like the other gays. I can still be like this kind of puritanical, like, when I first came out as lesbian, I was like a conservative lesbian.
Yeah.
And, I could never align myself with that, because then that's like really.
It sounds like you were editing yourself. You were allowing yourself to, feel the feelings you were feeling and act the way you wanted to act, but you were still holding on to like an edit of that.
Yeah. I was still trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
That like trickle down of be who we want you to be, but then editing into, well, I am a lesbian, but I can't be that lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
And was that more like put on for yourself as your expectations? Did you feel that from the community? Like, or was it just solely like, this is how I should be seen? Like, did you feel like other people wanted you to be seen a certain way?
I wanted to be seen a certain way. I never really felt pressure from the community. Like, if anything, whenever I was super femme presenting, my friends that were in the community, even they could feel something was off. Like, it was like, I had been told that I was really difficult to connect with, because they were like, like they're like, I don't know what it is, but you just, everything that I did was like
you're not genuine. You're not authentic.
exactly.
And you're like, I'm trying.
You were like, you had opened the door a little bit and you were looking out, but you weren't all the way there yet. You were still working through that PTSD of how you grew up and trying to figure out how to be authentic to yourself without losing all the things you were taught as a kid. Because even, when you're in a relationship or a situation that is uncomfortable and not good for you, that's your norm. And getting into something that's healthy for you is hard too, because you don't know that feeling as much. And so you always kind of lean back towards that. Well, this is where I've always been. This is where I'm comfortable, uncomfortable. So I can see that kind of stepping stone of you coming to realize who you truly are.
Well, and to add to that, I know sometimes it feels like we're beating a dead horse, but this is why we dive in like really deep into these conversations.
Yeah.
We grew up very similar in small towns. You were a lot in a different, more extreme religious situation than I was, but I still had some of that. But it was like you were told, oh, they're a lipstick lesbian, and then or they're butch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost
I remember those
like,
terms.
yeah. So it's almost like you grow up hearing that.
You can only be one or the other.
I could see how that would shape someone who's trying to be authentic to themselves.
Yeah.
Can you resonate with that? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. I mean, I would go with what label was more socially acceptable. It wasn't super socially acceptable to be butch. And
Right.
so I'm like, okay, well, I'm a pretty lipstick lesbian.
You told me that.
Mm-hmm.
You told me that when we had lunch one time.
Yeah. I prided myself on I was like, I don't look like some of these other gays. Like, I mean, also like how you present I was raised to think that was so important. And I mean, in some ways, but not in the ways that, like, I realize now, like, in some ways it is, but it's not in the ways that I was taught. And so, back then, like, I did pride myself on being a really pretty lesbian. Because, when I would look in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw, but I was like, but everybody else does.
Yeah, that was good enough.
Yeah. As long as they think that I'm good and they think that I'm, like I made sure that how I spoke was always like, I was very careful with my words. I wasn't very I was very filtered because that's what everybody else wanted from me. And so I just it took a really long time to start separating myself from that and then tangling it and okay, who would I be without other people telling me who I am?
What happened to make you stop and ask yourself that question?
I don't really know that there was a specific incident. I feel like it was just years slowly tangling. I do think that a lot of I felt that no matter how much I wanted to be involved in stuff, I felt this disconnect with everybody around me. It's I felt, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, okay, it's not that I'm just meeting all these inauthentic people. The variable is me. It's not
You're the common denominator.
People, yes. All of these people are not enough. I'm not able to connect to people I was, and I felt it. I was trying to connect with people. I was trying to date, and people just it just was not clicking. And
did people say you tried too hard?
Mm-hmm.
I used to get that when I was younger, trying to figure out just who I was. They're like, you're trying too hard. And
I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I guess that there is one person that I was talking to this girl and I really liked her. I was in my brain, I was like, that's exactly what I would want. And but it was like there was always this weird like disconnect between us. So it's like I knew that I really liked who she was and I could see something there. But she actually multiple times was like, I sometimes feel like I don't know who you are. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like all the time. She's like, yeah, but like I don't feel like you, like I feel like it always feels like you're hiding something. I remember saying that, and I was so offended because like, what are you talking about? I'm so honest about everything. Like, oh, I'm so honest about everything except for who I am. You know, like I remember I would like get super self-conscious because I hadn't fully like admitted to myself that I was trans, because I was like, which at the time I had started with wearing 2 sports bras to hide my chest. And then
like the banding or whatever, where it just like super squishes you down.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's very painful, and I double bind, and I know that I'm supposed to do that, but I'm like, I would rather be in pain than people know that I have boobs. Like, which I know saying it out loud sounds so backwards.
No, it doesn't.
But like back then,
I will put my health at risk by double binding, and just so I can be a version of who I want to be.
I have bruised ribs and stuff, but I still do it every day. But like back then, I had like, she had asked me if I've had multiple partners ask me, "Do you think that you might be brown?" You know, and I'd be like, "No, I'm just a lesbian that doesn't want boobs." Which there are some lesbians out there that just don't want boobs. But I was like, "Oh no, I would never do that. I just want to get top surgery." Oh no, I'm not trans, but I just wish that I didn't have boobs and my voice is a little bit deeper. Oh, I would never be trans, but I think it would be really cool to have facial hair. And like I said, like there are some lesbians who do want to be more masculine, who like identify as women. Like there are people out there like that, you know. But like it was like I would like get one step closer, and like I would feel like I was being so myself. And she'd be like, and I'm like back then I was very traumatized, and I was like a chaser.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, why don't you like me?
Yes.
You know, for so long, I was like, is it something I said? Is it something I'm doing? Like, what is it that I need to change about myself for us to connect?
Because that's what you always did before.
And then
did you still have a relationship with your family at that time, or was that kind of no? So you didn't have that love because you weren't being true to yourself, and now you felt like you were kind of being true to yourself, and people weren't still loving you, and you're like, love me, just please, someone tell me you love me.
I was just I actually never connected that. Like I was really seeking out. It's like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
So that's part of what kept me from transitioning for so long, was feeling like people wouldn't love me. You know, like, oh, that's too much. That's too much of a burden. That's too uncomfortable for everybody else around you. That's like, why would anybody want you? You know, like you're mentally ill. Like that's what I felt like it was like, oh, it's not that I'm trans. I'm just very mentally ill. You know, and what's crazy is most of my symptoms of mental illness went away when I transitioned. You know,
you always hear that.
I was curious, like when you came to terms with I am trans, like what was that feeling like? Was it like 1,000 pounds just came off of your chest?
Yeah. And it was very, very terrifying too, because I feel like it's kind of like whenever I first admitted to myself that I liked women. It was a relief, but at the same time, I did feel a ton of shame about it. And it was also like, I feel like once I realized things, there's no going back for me. It's kind of like if you like get the ick with a person and you're like, there's no going back. Like once you get that ick, that's how it felt like it was like, okay, now that I've admitted it to myself, there's no returning.
Yeah.
You know, like
the toothpaste is out of the tube.
So like, and also I feel like that also is why I presented so femininely for so long, because at least I had the safety. Because like when I first came out, I came out as bisexual, which I'd never even been with a man. But it was like
stepping stone.
Are truly bisexual. You know, like that's not invalidating the identity of bisexual people, but for me,
right,
it was like I said it because then I could be like, oh no, it's just a phase, never mind. Like if I got too much backlash. And so then I was lesbian, but I was still femme presenting because it was safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like it definitely that like definitely played a role in like why it took so long for me to transition, because I'm like, me taking testosterone, like I could stop taking testosterone at any point. But I'm like, the effects are the permanent. Not all of them. Like some things would revert, like my voice wouldn't go back to what it was, but it might raise a little bit. And my, you know, like my fat would start to redistribute in my body the way that a woman would, or like a female body. And it's like those things are reversible, kind of. But then there's things like my voice will forever be deeper. There's no going back, really. Which I mean, technically, there is. But like, my face will always start to grow hair. I will always now have a very hairy body. Like, there's like things that are never going to go back, and so it's just like you just reach like it's like a point of no return, and so it's so scary.
Yeah, and I think that's what annoys me about the argument of, oh, what if you change your mind? Like, no, if you're making this decision, like you're in it 10 tones in. Like there's no, oh, maybe I'll try this out and see how this goes. Like no. Like
I'll just get it lasered off, it's fine.
Yeah, it's way too expensive of a
yes
for like for it to be something. And like of course there might be people who maybe they like I'm like careful with what I say about it, because I know that some people might take something that's said like, well, you see, there are people who do. It's very very rare, and I don't know if it's that like they regret it because it does make you it makes you a target. That's a scary feeling. There are some people that do detransition, but that's like, you know, like less than one. So in the US, less than 1% of the population is trans.
Right.
So like the media wants you to think that it's this huge epidemic.
Right.
All these children wanting to, like, that's not true. We're less than 1% of the population. And it's not a common thing. It's also not a new thing because people forever have been trans. In other cultures, in indigenous cultures, they have two-spirit people. Like, trans people are celebrated.
Yeah.
You know, it's not this, like, taboo, satanic, whatever they make it out to be. Like, we have always existed. It's always been a thing, and it's always been like a not rare thing, but it's not a huge portion of the population. Yeah. Never has been.
But you have the people from the small towns who are like, well, I never heard of that until just now. And so like this didn't exist in the back in the day, and there's an epidemic. Like,
you know what? Back in the day they were lynching.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, the good old days. Exactly. When you were more like, I feel like most of the time when people talk about the good old days or back in my day, you know, it's because they're not comfortable with like evolving or changing. But like maybe back in your day, life was better for you. Gay people, Matthew Shepard was getting strung up on a barbed wire fence. Like gay people were getting arrested. Like yeah, maybe back in your day, things were easier. Like, I heard one of my great aunts had said one time, like, I just miss the good old days when this just wasn't a thing. And I was like, okay, but your good old days, there was segregation. There's the KKK running rampant. Like, my mom remembers the KKK. Like, she saw the KKK. Like, they saw, like, my grandmother lived a few blocks away from the Birmingham church bombing back in the civil rights movement. So the good old days for you were not good for everybody. You know.
No, and I wonder too if like the good old days, you know, quote, we didn't have the same amount of communication we have now. So I feel like that's part of it, is all of a sudden they're getting all of this more information. These things have been around for forever. And, you know, fear is one of the biggest things to cause big issues, like the whole satanic panic, like of the 90s, where everyone's in a cult and everyone's, you know, like the West Memphis Three were part of that, where they're like, oh, they're murdering children. They didn't even do it. Like, that's the fear is, you know, I think that more communication is coming out. So then they'll say, well, this wasn't around. This wasn't here. And I'm like, actually, it was. You just didn't know about it because your circle was smaller and our circle is getting bigger. And as people, we need to grow and to understand and learn and be curious about these other things outside of our circle. But like we said, change is hard. And I think a lot of people are just like, I refuse.
Well, because they were
And
shamed.
that's,
They were
yeah.
they were told how terrible it was and how you need to conform. And I've always been known as, oh, Michelle, you know, the girl with the boobs. Like my whole life. Like I used to have
as the itty bitty titty committee.
But I used to have boys undo my bra strap in class and think it was funny.
Did
Like,
they ever make you do the Hooters test?
What's the? Oh, the.
Where you walk.
I don't know what that is.
And you, if your nose hits first, then you have a tiny chest, and if your boobs hit first, then you have big titties.
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, no. In high school,
my nose would absolutely hit first.
they like in high school, I didn't know what it was. I was very naive.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh, you should. Or I never even been to Hooters. I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you should walk up to that wall. And I was like, why?
Okay.
Do it. And so I did. And like, oh, you passed the Hooters test. You know, I was just like, what is that?
Yeah. But anyway, I digress. We could.
I mean, there's always been this like image, even, you know, growing up on women, that we should be that hourglass, have big boots, have a small waist, have big hips. And, you know, I always felt like I was less because I didn't have that. I've always been, you know, the ruler, like the straight, you know, and no matter what.
Yeah.
I was so envious of that.
Me too.
And I was envious of the other because I felt like I was, you know, I wasn't girly enough. And it doesn't matter like where you are in life. Like, it's always that the grass is greener on the other side, because that's what we're taught as, you know, like who we are and what we are is never. Like Michelle and I were talking about this while we were shopping at Goodwill the other day, about like certain things that would fit a certain way. And I'm like, oh no, that'd be back in like my crop tops. We were talking about crop tops.
Oh God.
And I go, I'm not a crop top. Yeah, I can't wear crop tops. I don't think I could have when I was younger. And she's like, yeah, you could have. I could have. And I'm like, yeah, but when I was that age, I never thought I could. Like, you always took the worst about yourself and thought about it that way. And then as you're older, you're like, oh, it wasn't.
I looked cute.
Damn,
oh,
I was great back then.
That really nicely. Yeah. Yeah. And the shame behind clothes as you getting older hit me too, because I would like wear shirts, like not low cut at all, but then it was like, oh, your boobs look really big in that shirt. Like, it's like, I'm just wearing a fucking shirt. Like I putting on clothes is my worst nightmare. Shopping for clothes, still to this day, it's fucked up. Anyway, sorry. I'm resonating with you so much right now.
Yeah, are you trans? No, I'm just kidding.
I know, right? I'm like, wait.
Maybe.
No, it's like it sucks that like, because I feel like, you know, like growing up a girl, because I was super curvy, I was never gonna be desirable because I wasn't super skinny.
Yes.
The skinny girls were told that they would never be desirable because they didn't have curves.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, you actually just don't like women.
Yes.
Just say that. You're gay.
Amen. Yeah. Fuck. It's hard. Fuck.
Would I be
Fuck
in
people.
a
Right.
man's body?
What's that?
Oh, like, would I be enough for you boys if I had a man's body?
Right. Is that acceptable?
Maybe.
No. Honestly, my theory, serial cheaters, gay. If a man is constantly cheating on women, he's gay. Because you're never going to be satisfied by a woman. You know why? Because you want men.
Yeah.
And like men who are like super abusive and just treat women like shit, gay.
Yeah.
Because why
They hate themselves.
these things to be so manly to appeal to other men?
Yeah.
That seems like homosexuality, if you ask me.
Well, I love, during the Republican National Convention.
They crashed Grindr.
So, Kris,
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, I've followed you on social media for a long time, and I remember the moment when you cut your hair. And I was wondering, did you do tea first or did you cut your hair first? Like, what? Okay. What was that? If you don't want to talk about it, you can.
No. It's so.
How long was your hair?
It was long.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
long.
Okay.
I can find a picture. So, archive. So my hair used to be like this length.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl.
Back in my girl days.
Yeah. So it was pretty long, and like I wanted to cut it for so long, but I was always told how pretty I was, and I had pretty hair. And this is going to sound like the most shallow thing ever, but part of what kept me from transitioning for so long was the fear of being ugly. So like, because like you don't like your face is gonna change, and it's like I was like, okay, at least right now I'm worthy because I'm attractive and I have long pretty hair, and people like I was a hot commodity in the lesbian world here, and I was like, if I cut my hair off, that's gonna make me less attractive and less desirable to more people, like. Because everybody wants like the long-haired tomboy lesbian, and I was like, nobody's gonna want me anymore. And like, I hate that that's what held me back from it. But yeah, one day I was just like, I'm so tired of talking about doing stuff. I'm tired of talking about finding a new job or talking about this. Like, when am I just gonna fucking grow a pair and do it? Metaphorically speaking, of course, because you can't grow a pair on TV.
Damn it.
I know. You can bottom growth, but you don't. So I just like one day was like, you know what? I'm going to book an appointment right now and just do it. So I was on my way to work and I just typed in barbershop Austin, pulled one up close to my work, booked an appointment, and then got my hair cut off that day.
Before work?
No, after work.
Okay, I was like,
I need it off now.
No. I do that.
I
I'll be like, I need my hair cut now.
Immediately. No, I booked it for after work. And so I was just like, you know what? I feel like I need to be impulsive because right now I feel like I have the courage to do it. And if I don't act right this second, then it's gonna just continue to be a cycle like it has been. I've thought about it for years, and I haven't had the courage to do it. And right now I do. So let's jump on that. And it was the ugliest haircut I've ever had. It was bad. Because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't I grew up being a girl, so I don't know what to ask for at a barber shop. Like, I don't know what all the different terminologies mean. It was super overwhelming. And so I just like showed him a picture. I was like, I guess like this. And he was like, okay. And I said, but I don't want it to be super short, because I still wanted it to be like a little androgynous, just in case. And it was ugly. It really was. I loved that I was like, I looked more how I felt, but I was like, this is not cute. So it took me a long time to figure out like what hairstyle I liked, and what to ask for at the barbershop. But so I did that first, and then I started tea probably a year later. And with tea, I feel like it was harder for me to cut off my hair than it was to start tea. Because the way that my hair already looks like shit. So even if I my face starts to look, because you do go through an awkward phase when you start tea. Your face is changing, but it's like that weird, just like boy puberty. Like, their face just looks awkward. You haven't filled in yet. So it's just like your cheeks get real chubby. And so like I did hit an awkward phase, but I was like, okay, I already hit like the most awkward phase with my short hair journey. So I feel like I'll be okay. But yeah, that was the first step.
I think cutting your hair too is such like a visual, like there's you just cut it all off where, maybe with tea, it's not as dramatic immediately.
Yeah.
And you know that there's going to be changes. So maybe that was harder because it was so dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find do you think of yourself as someone that dives into impulses, or no?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah. So I had read Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule.
Yeah.
I love that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't really look at like being impulsive as like, if you're doing like irresponsible things, then that's obviously a good thing. But like most of my intuitions have been like I feel like I've learned now, like my body's like screaming for something to change. And so I have started to like, the second I feel that, I'm like, oh, got to make a change. So like I've moved cities, just like a spur of the moment, like, okay, I'm deciding right now I'm moving to a different city. Mm-hmm. And I immediately I immediately apply for jobs. I immediately look for apartments. Like, instead of it being like I'm thinking about it. Like, once I have that impulse, I'm like, do it right now. I have stipulations on it. If I know that I'm not in a place mentally, I will not do it. Like, I'll be like,
good.
Give yourself a week. But like, thank God for therapy, because before I did not have that type of like discernment. And so I would just randomly, I guess I'm quitting my job today. Oh, you know what? It does make sense for me to move across the country right now. Like,
makes sense.
It's like, again.
I wonder, is it a control thing? Maybe because you felt like you weren't in control of your own body and your own image, and it's like that was one thing that you could control.
Yeah. These people aren't perceiving me the way that I want them to. So let me go somewhere where people can just start fresh.
Yeah.
Which I do. That's something that like I used to think was super irresponsible, and like in some ways it is. But I'm also like, okay, there's some people who never make friends, who stay stuck, who know that they want to leave their partner and will never take those steps. It's like I've learned to love that about myself.
Yeah.
Like before, like what my family shamed and thought of me as like the wild card, like You know, I'm like, okay, I like that about myself, because how many of them are stuck in places that they fucking hate living in?
Yeah, I rarely resonate with all in. Like, it takes me a while to make that decision, but once I'm all in, I'm all in. And it takes guts to be able to make changes like that. It takes guts to change your life. It takes guts. This is the shortest my hair has ever been. That took guts. Like, it just,
Yeah.
changes like that are, it shows just how strong you are as a person, because you know the other side of that is, what will people think, da, 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 da. Like, but the fact that you went from all you did was care about what people think to now, screw everybody, I'm living the way I want, like that that in itself is huge. Like, not many people get to experience that.
I think that like I still do sometimes care too much about what people think.
Yeah.
But I make decisions anyway. Like,
I don't think we'll ever stop that. It's something we've always thought, and we're human. We're always gonna, well, how's this gonna look on, you know, I'll do that too. But then I'm like you, I'm like, fuck it, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I might be crying, screaming, throwing up on the inside, but I'm gonna still do it. I know what the optics are of this. I'm fully aware, and I hate it. Which, I mean, transitioning, for example, like, I knew that my life is going to be different. I knew that the way that people perceive me is going to be different. I knew that it puts me in situations that I've never been in. Like unsafe positions. I knew all of that, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like, yes, that is probably going to happen to me. I probably will deal with this, but would I rather deal with this and love myself, or like deal with this and like want to die, or like not have these struggles but still want to die?
Yeah.
Either
I resonate with you so much right now. You said how you knew it would put you in dangerous situations. What, so to someone who, you know, doesn't know any better, what do those look like? What can you give examples? Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Yeah. So because I do still have boobs, I'm constantly aware of like what I'm wearing and whether or not people can see that I have boobs. Like, my work uniform does a good job of hiding it, but outside of my work uniform, like, I'm not typically wearing, you know, a vest. And so like I have been followed home before. I take public transit a lot, and I was on the bus, and like, funny enough, like, you know, the jokes write themselves. Like, I was wearing a MAGA hat, and it was like this old white guy who was just like staring me down, and like, I don't like to be that person that's like constantly thinking that like, oh, are you being transphobic? You know, like, I try not to assume that about people, but when my body feels unsafe, it feels unsafe for a reason. And it was like, and sometimes like, I don't know, I'm like, okay, am I just being self-conscious, or is this actually like, am I in actual danger? And the guy was just, the way that he was looking at me, I don't think I've ever been looked at in that way. It was just it was very unsettling. And I was like on the bus, and I was so uncomfortable that like, and like, the worst part is like, my phone was about to die too. And so like, I was on my way home, my phone's about to die. And so I was like, okay, I need to get off on the next stop. Like, I don't want to hear this guy. And I also like, I think I was also wanting to see like, okay, is he going to do something crazy? And so I got off the bus, which now that I think about it, like I probably should have stayed on the bus. There's cameras, there's people around. But I got off the bus just because I wanted to be out of the situation. And he got off of the bus with me. And I was just like, I was walking. It's at night. My phone's about to die. And so I'm like, I would cross the street here and he would like do the same thing. And so I was like, okay, my phone's about to die. It could die if I get an Uber. So like, just in case something happens, like I need to be able to call 911 or get help. And so I just booked it. Like I sprinted as far as I could, as fast as I could. And like, he didn't chase after me for very long. But so that happened. And it was like in my head, I was like, I knew that was what it was.
Yeah.
You know, so like I've learned to trust that now. I also one time got threatened to be raped. Yeah, this guy had so nothing ever happens in my apartment complex. It's so quiet. And then one day I heard screaming, and like it was a guy screaming. And so I looked out my window and he was screaming at his girlfriend, but nothing physical had happened. It was just like, so I was like keeping an eye out. And I was like, okay, if he lunges or if it seems like it's going to get that way, I'll go out and intervene. And so he lunged at her and like he grabbed her. So the second he did that, I grabbed a bat and I ran outside and I got into it with him. And like my roommate, she was in the other window because like we were talking. She was like, "Hey, do you hear that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. Like I'm keeping an eye." So she recorded him grabbing her by the hair and slamming her face into the truck window over and over again. So I didn't see that part. Honestly, if I would have, I would have fucked him up the second that I walked out there. But like I didn't see that. I just saw him grab her and I immediately walked outside. So him and his brother get into it with me. And my roommate had already called 911. Like she stopped recording to call 911. And him and I are getting into it. Like we're just screaming at each other. Like I had tried to de-escalate the situation and it just like this thing about tea, like I started to get angry back. And I wasn't saying or doing anything crazy. I was just like, get the fuck out of my face. And he said that he was like, how about I just drop your pants right now and prove to you that you're confused. You don't even know if you're a man. And like, and he lives in this apartment complex. So like for a while it was like, is he gonna rape me while I'm walking home? And thankfully the cops got there very, very quickly because like I live very close to the station. And so I, for a long time, was just like, you know, I think like that was probably the most scared I've been with all of this, just because like I work downtown. I don't know who I'm interacting with. I don't know who, like, it's an open carry state. Like, I don't know if you're armed. I don't know if you have bad intentions. You know, like whenever I go camping with my girlfriend, you know, we go in remote places in Texas. I feel somewhat safe in Austin just because there are a lot of people there. Other places, I do get on edge. I hate that, like, you know, like being the more masculine one, like you're trained, like you should go out and get the things. But like, I never know what the right thing to do is because I do have a target on my back now. I could be in, you know, Buck, Egypt. And if the person at the gas station is transphobic, they're armed, they think that I'm like some type of predator, you know, like that. That's why I wanted to do the podcast, was more so like show people like we're not, like I'm not a threat. You know, like I have dealt with like, and I honestly, I am fairly passing And so I know that like I actually have much more of a privilege than other people. And, you know, trans women of color have it so much worse than any of us. And so I think it's important to like get, you know, I didn't want to do this, and like I wanted to, but I didn't want to because I was like, I don't want to put myself in that position. But I'm like, I feel like I owe it to my community to speak up and to try to appeal to people to show like we're not a threat. There's nothing to be afraid of. You know, like we literally just want to exist.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was incredible that you shared that, and I'm very sorry that you went through that. And I can already see Whitney crying, and that's fucked up. Nobody should go through that. Nobody should have even that thought cross their mind. Just trying to get home and be safe.
Join us next week for part 2 of Kris's story, The Warrior's Voice, Fear, Identity, and Transitioning in Texas.
Thank you for listening to Use Your Fear podcast. Oh, great.
You can watch full episodes on YouTube, listen on all major podcast platforms, and support us on Patreon for additional cutting room floor footage. Follow us on all social media and visit our website at useyourfear.com to connect. Or if you've got a fear story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Please share and support so we can continue to have these meaningful conversations so others know they aren't alone.
Have a great day. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.